So, hello, Sivaroshan.
Hi, Carlotta. It's lovely to be here and to be invited to talk on your show, on your offering. It's a real pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much for saying yes and for being here and for inviting us into your studio, your home studio. And where are you now at the moment?
Well, I know that you run the temple mentoring courses. You'll come to my temple now. This is HQ for all of the yoga trainings that I do, all of the yoga teachings, and for the healing work that I do. This is where it all happens for Action Station. So
Wow, this is wonderful. It's wonderful. And you're in Glastonbury?
yes, so Glastonbury. This is Hopewell Cottage in Glastonbury, and it's I'm very privileged to be here. Call this home. It's a very sacred place. It's like a temple within a temple. So for this phase of my life, very, very, very lucky to be here, especially during lockdowns and so forth.
Yeah, yes, I know. I've been to visit, and it is such a wonderful place, and it's wonderful that you've been able to teach from there at this time. And yeah,
it has really to be able to share this with people during this time, and kind of, you could say, be with the presence of this energy and be able to transmit it through the airwaves in classes and so forth. I think it's been really beautiful thing. And now we're doing it, and now you're in the States and being able to work like this. So like I said, we never saw this coming, but it's great that it has in many ways.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Oh, well, I'm really excited to open up some conversations today. And I know that, well, you run a Kundalini training, and we met many years ago through Kundalini Yoga. And since then, your work has been opening up and developing so much. And so not only do you do trainings, but you're also doing energy healing trainings as well. And you're essentially, then you'll explain this better for us, but inviting in and anchoring in some really important energies, especially preparing people for, well, all of life as it, keeps changing, but also this Aquarian age that's really fully coming in now. Yeah.
Very much so. We've known each other for many years now, and obviously life takes us down many different paths, many different roads. And you've touched upon a few things there. I mean, I think some years ago now, it struck that there's always a continual evolution in everything. And if we bring the Aquarian age a little bit into it, that evolution is accelerating. And so it stands to reason that many of us who are working in this, you could say, for lack of a better word, you could say, light workers type of offering, is transitioning so quickly. So I found myself at a crossroads in my own spiritual practice, in my own, you could say, sense of purpose and offering to the world. And this manifested itself in you could say, in quite an accelerated change. So now I offer an independent Kundalini training. It was born 3 years ago. We're now in our third year of training, and it's been really alive and rich to teach yoga, which has always evolved within this energy frequency that we're finding right now. And likewise with energy work, I see the two so beautifully connected that, where there might be some gaps in the yoga training, the energy work helps to fill those spaces in a very eloquent way. So, between both of them, they've pretty much been the journey of my life. And so now I share them. So that's the way it goes, I suspect, that we offer these things once we get to that point.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Yes. And quite rare, I know, as well, the work that you're doing. So I want to talk more about it, about these attunements at the moment that you're offering, because I'm really interested in how you're seeing these energies as they're coming in. And particularly in temple, there's a couple of things that might resonate with you. the first is that we also work with these new energies that are coming in, and particularly some of these energies of the Magdalene and Yeshua. But it's really about how we feel these energies, the grace that they bring, and how we anchor them through our bodies. And so I wanted to find out what your process is and what you're bringing in.
Yeah, well, it sounds a wonderful process that you're working with Magdalene and Yeshua. And yes, Magdalene and Yeshua are our guides and energies that we work with as well. And you could say they landed, and you could say their energy frequencies that you could say are already in us. And you could say the archetypal activation or attunement is, you could say, a wake-up call to the frequency that lies dormant within. And we could work and discover this for ourselves, but quite often it doesn't happen, and we're in a time of accelerated space, and it's the calling landed, which it did with me and with yourself, that we start to create spaces for these energy frequencies to be experienced. And when you receive an activation or attunement, how does that work? Well, for me, it gives you a very raw experience, unfiltered, especially the first time you receive it. And that unfiltered experience is the beginner's mind experience is the most powerful, because it's innocent. And this innocence is that flavor that we've lost. And when we receive the activation of the Christ energy, of the Magdalene energy, within a space of innocence, it can have a very profound impact on the soul. It's something that becomes quite undeniable. And when you receive an undeniable truth, it's something that lands within our consciousness in a very profound way and can activate a life change. And I mean this in the best possible way, in the sense that we lay dormant upon many of our gifts, of our potential, of so many of these things, and working with the frequency in this way, which is beyond the rational mind, beyond any sense of logic or explanation, triggers in us a deep remembering of who we truly are. And then, after that moment, you have then the wonderful archetypes of Yeshua and Magdalene to then, allow the mind, which needs something, to kind of work with. And that's how we run our courses. We work with the activation, and then there's some wonderful channels out there who brought through some amazing books, and we kind of really choreograph an experience for people to work with Magdalene and Yeshua in the weeks after the activation and attunement, to the level to which they wish to.
Oh, that's beautiful. And as you're bringing in these energies, or we're reactivating them in ourselves, do you feel the difference between the feminine essence and the masculine essence coming in? Because we've talked about going more towards unity consciousness and unity awareness.
It's a very good question. I said at a personal level, I don't often, I guess I perhaps don't necessarily give the energies too much of an association or label between them, because I think at that frequency level, they're not so concerned with it. Magdalene and Yeshua, at the frequency of it's very light, and it's mostly our polarity on earth that is more concerned about masculine and feminine. Yeah. What I have found in my direct experience is that the archetypal energy will bring through at times, mostly for me, the feminine experience. Because of my masculine archetype, I needed to receive from Magdalene. So when I had a profound, I'd been working with Magdalene for a while, but then I had a really profound moment with her energy that was, you could say, best described as tantric, where the energy really merged with me, and I was in tears. It was almost like I had I realized what it was to be with the feminine. Beyond, beyond the nice book, or beyond an explanation from wonderful teachers of what it is and you can really receive from this, but it was so visceral. It was like a gift, and it was like it brought the tears, because it kind of dissolved a lot of the pain of the feminine wounds that many men hold, and vice versa. So it brought a very powerful, deep, direct experience of the feminine that really gave me, I guess, hope. Every man wants to understand a woman, huh? So it's like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? Yeah, at some level, it was so beautiful, and it really gave me a deep, direct experience of the feminine, which has helped me enormously in how I teach and how I am, and in many different aspects of my life. So.
Yeah. This is so beautiful, because we never really talk about men receiving the Magdalene energy and channeling the Magdalene energy, and it's so important. And more my own work as well is opening up to men, and men receiving womb healings and healings with the feminine. And I think it's because of what you're talking about now, that it's such a blessing also for us to feel healing from the masculine, and the masculine to feel healing from the feminine.
Very much so. I think this is it, isn't it? I mean, in our polarized experience on this planet, where we are, always at opposites in many things, it seems, masculine and feminine being the primary aspect and of understanding. And if we don't go there, then we'll never really get there. So, we're starting with the work that you're offering, and the work that I'm offering. I hope we're looking obviously for more men. We will come to get more involved in this type of work, because it's much needed, and it's very, very rewarding. It will help dissolve a lot of things.
That's so beautiful. So you feel these energies more as it's an internal alchemy that happens, and then.
Yeah, so I'm my primary sensitivity is clairsentient, so I tend to feel in my body when I work with the energies mostly. So if I were to channel Yeshua, it would have a certain frequency that I'd be familiar with, and if I were to channel Magdalene, it would have a frequency that I'd be familiar with. Quite often it will come through in emotions that I have maybe a reference for. And so Magdalene may come in with the frequency of that moment where I had that peak experience with her. So she would kind of make herself known through that reference that I would have. But, over the years of working like this, I just kind of know. It's a very strange thing. I mean, I know many gifted healers, and they work in many different wonderful ways. Some see visuals very clearly, and see the image of the guide, of the master, or hear the sound or the voice clearly. For me, my predominant one is the feeling in the body, but I do on occasion see a little, and more often I hear. So, it's what I would say about it, for me in the work, and what inspired me to pass it on. And I'd spent many years training and deliberating with I should. I had many wonderful teachers who were very, very kind to me, and shared that I was very gifted in this work, but I never really, I saw it as a huge responsibility to be working in this field of, activating, attuning, and so forth. But I came to the position that I couldn't sit on it. I had to somehow bring my gifts to the table in the way that they were. And I've become very comfortable that and when I teach others, I really say, look, it's fine for you to have your own very unique experience of the master, the angel, the source, the goddess, in a way that is very for you. It's very difficult to codify it in any one way or form, because we're so different. So that's how it feels. It's very, and sometimes more visceral, and more the body really feels it. It's as if it's telling you through the body that you've got to release something, or you've got to work on something, or something like this.
Yes. Yes, and I couldn't agree more. It's something that it almost feels as though these energies are asking us to not learn about them through books and through history, which a lot of it we don't even know if it's true or not, but just really to feel what their gifts are through our own bodies, and to be able to bring some of that into our own lives. Yeah, and then as this alchemy is happening, it becomes a way into that unity, I find. Do you find that same thing, that sort of balancing of the masculine and feminine within?
Yeah, I very much so. I think the unity is, you could say, that eureka moment of, or what I would say, a moment where of consolidation of any form of separation that you're experiencing. And this can happen in sometimes the most surreal, bizarre ways, comical ways, tearful ways, and that alchemy of unity that you describe, and how I see it in the people who undertake the activations. And it happens. It can happen in a moment of very precious recognition of a truth. And it normally shows itself when there's a wide-eyed look with someone, and a real dawning of reality, and accompanied often with a inhibition in sharing something so profound that has somehow knitted together something in their life. Mm-hmm. And that could well show itself in a masculine, feminine tussle that has suddenly been brought together. And I find it fascinating how it happens. I couldn't, and everything normally revolves around the masculine, feminine intertwined, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Many of our dynamics in the world. So, but the shape of it and how it lands with people is always incredible. Is where it makes the training so fun, because you really never know what's going to happen.
But you work with these, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's different couples of energies that you've coupled together, as it were.
Yes, right. Yeah, for example, yes, I worked with, so the first thing was the Way of the Heart. So I brought the Way of the Heart together. The main inspiration for the Way of the Heart was East and West. Mm-hmm. So there was the Masters of the East and the Masters of the West. And when I brought them together, I really saw maybe there was a little bit of my life journey of Eastern blood, living and born and bred in the West, and coming together with these two energies, and what do they mean? But within that, yes, there's a certain coupling that can happen, and I work with this mostly specifically around Magdalene and Yeshua. So if I were to, for example, work with them together, you could work with their frequencies along what we call the Ida and Pingala, which are the two serpents along the spine, along the Sushumna, the central current. And you can work with their frequencies archetypally and energetically in a kind of activation or kind of meditation that will draw upon those feminine and masculine energies in a kind of unity. So this is a very direct way of working. It's I don't necessarily do this so often in the activations, in the sense that in the beginner one, in the way that I offer it, it tends to be that it's an invitation at that first level, and then people normally who want to work deeper, then we work together like this. People who've worked with both the frequencies individually and then are comfortable with them, and then let's work together with both of those frequencies and see what can happen and shift and transform. And likewise with the Buddha and Kuan Yin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's another polarity. You could even work with the Tara energy. It's a similar kind of work, where you're working with the feminine and a masculine archetype. I tend to work mostly like this, again, once you've had the individual activations, because there's a certain, you could say, integration period that I think is sometimes a good period to sit with those particular energies. And, many people want to work differently in different ways. So that's a little bit how it unfolds.
Yes, agreed. It's very powerful. We do a similar activation, the love alchemy meditation, which is the snake meditation, the caduceus meditation. Yeah, it is very powerful, and I find that it's always different if there's a mixture of men and women in the group, or masculine identified and feminine identified people, because you can really feel the energies even in the group.
Oh, absolutely.
Moving, yeah. Thank you. Yes. Do you have any insights on where this is all heading to in this Aquarian age? What are we really moving towards?
That's a big
here?
question.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, if I were to, there's so much written, there's so much said, but I always tend to come back to what my feeling is around it, is that we are moving through a very chaotic period on the planet to make sense of an ascending frequency of energy. It's like everything is being destabilized so that everything can be understood that was hidden once before. And until we go through this process of seeing, then we can never really move on to the next stage of humanity's plan. If you look at some of the scriptures, they vary in various different flavors or forms, but most of the teaching will talk about the yugas within the Hindu tradition. There's the precession of the equinoxes, which is for multiple traditions, the Mayan tradition and in the Hindu tradition, whereby you have these cycles of time. And depending on on the books and the interpretation of it, we are in an ascending arc, coming out of a lower vibrational time into a higher vibrational time. You could say moving out of a darker age to an age of light. Now, in that transition, we could say are in that infancy or the cusp period, or in a period of, you could say, of immaturity, of not knowing what to do with this energy. And one of the ways we can see this is through the intensification of polarity. So at one level, we have a burgeoning spiritual world, people like you and I doing what we're doing that we could never perhaps even envisage 10 years ago, to be doing what we're doing now to the level that we're doing. There's a real acceleration of this, and to kind of just say there's no reason for it would kind of not feel right, because there's many authentic people out there who are really feeling massive shifts in their consciousness. And equally, we see a lot of pain and suffering in the world that is showing itself with the pandemic, which is showing itself in the suffering with people who have lost loved ones, who have lost jobs, who have lost businesses, starvation, all of these type of things also prevalent. So it's like there's this huge realization of having to see of everything, and in the chaos of this all, there will be some form of integration, and we will settle in the next years, one hopes, in a place which feels cohesively more real. I would suspect something that will move towards a nature. And a deeper connection with nature in one hand, but there will also be, I think, also a split where there will be a real connection to technology. This is a real reflection of the past. I don't want to go too far into this, maybe unless you want me to, but there's, the ages of the past. You talk about Atlantis, we talk about Lemuria, we're talking about these great civilizations. And within the spirit, in the Hindu system and many other esoteric systems, it's cyclical. So So we're not just moving on an upward arc. We were on an upward arc, we dropped, and now we're returning. So how do we learn the lesson of Atlantis? How do we learn the lessons of the past in this our new awakening time? So this is a bit of the frame. It can be a little bit of a, if it's the first time you hear something like this. I'm a very grounded individual. I worked in the city, the square mile of London for many years, and I am still a very grounded, down to earth type of person. And I look for practical solutions for that interpretation. I see how can we learn from the mistakes of duality, and how can we bring other people with us on the journey of our awakening. So you could say that is the challenge that we have. How do we not split and create a war? And how do we have the stability to really, under the highest provocation, try and come together? So this is the game, I think.
Wow, that is a beautiful explanation, and one that I haven't heard before quite in those terms. So
good, I know that just came out, so I don't know. As it does sometimes. So
it was beautiful, yeah. I don't think I've quite thought about it in those ways before as well. And so you feel like we're still in the polarizing moment. So we still have yet to sort of decide if we're going to come together.
Yeah, I feel, this last year, if many people are far more learned than me in the arts of astrology and so forth, would have known there was an immense number of confluences, astrological events that have happened over the last few years, and culminating with a huge event around the winter solstice on the 21st of December, recently gone.
Yeah.
And this was, you could say, the true Aquarian age. Yeah. So we've been having pseudo Aquarian age in 2012. There's so many different written scriptures moving towards when this shift of I to we is going to happen. And we can probably now, I think we've probably been around long enough to remember the 2012 days of when this is going to be a spiritual unfolding, and then maybe waiting for the popcorn or the fireworks to go off, and it didn't quite go off in the way that we did.
Right.
But now it feels different, huh? It feels that the frequency is far more alive and ripe and ready. So I kind of forgotten your question a little bit. I don't know.
It's interesting, but we're still in that moment of tension.
Yes. So we're still in it, I think. And this is like what's happening right now is sometimes there needs to be a huge intensity that Mother Earth gives us for us to wake up. And sometimes we have to look beyond mankind's interpretation, or humankind's, womankind's interpretation of something that is beyond our conception of understanding. It's almost like, throwing us all together to say, locking the room and say, sort it out, and you're not going to let you out until you do. So it feels like we're in kind of one of these moments where we're under intense pressure to really discover the truth of ourselves. And I think we can't think too much about it. I think we have to trust the process that people are going through their metamorphosis in their own way, in their own lives. And in the next couple of years, the fruits of that metamorphosis will show itself. That's the you could say the glass half full perspective, that this will land itself with a real focus on people doing things that are really in alignment to themselves, that are really real, that they can drop the facade and start to walk the walk, which is what their soul came to do. And when people start to walk the walk of what their soul came to do, and they start to do it in greater and greater numbers, will be a huge amplification of light on this planet, and we will start to stabilize this shift. Because at the moment we're half in, half out, quarter in, quarter out. We're like like a radio station that is not quite getting the signal, so we just need to stabilize it.
That's beautiful. That's exactly right. Getting chills just thinking about that. But in fact, I've heard you talk about the royal self, this idea of cultivating the royal self, which I think is a wonderful concept. And could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's several words with it. Sometimes we need, different ways in to look at a subject which maybe we're already familiar with. So the royal self or the angelic self, which I also tend to call it within a frame of work that I teach, but the royal self is, you could say, it's a moment where perhaps we reclaim our true nature. And the word royal is in a way to signify that we are sovereign. Yeah, that we are children of the divinity, and that we are in fact part of divinity. The royals, you could say, of old were to they were royal because they had a royal bearing, and they were there to elevate, to radiate, to uplift through their presence. Yeah, and this job was given to a bloodlines. Yeah, and back in the past, you could say there were certain, when the energy frequencies were at the higher level than they are now, the true kings and queens were on this planet. And the bloodlines in this sense were to not evoke a sense of better or worse. It was like a job. This is their job. It was there, somehow they could bring through some frequency that was anchoring some space to help lead the civilizations, to lead the people of the times. And over the times, as we descend from this it got polluted. Like this age, the dark ages of one of everything is not quite the same anymore. And now we're coming into this Aquarian age of I to we, and we realize that the other is me. And the sense of royal, as I say, is to realize the divinity in us. And once we stabilize in that realization, we awaken the royal self, because this is when the people, you see this in people when they're in their element, when they're in their royalty, they are, there's another word, they are elevating, they're uplifting, they're radiating. And sometimes it's for a glimpse and you see them put their cloak over themselves again. And but in that moment, they're royal. You don't have to be in the royal family to be royal. Because the quality there was to uplift, to elevate, to bring, and this is the quality that makes us human. The light hue, it means hue and light, royal.
That's a beautiful framework, and then that allows us to really step into delivering what we came here to deliver. And
it's you could say, I think right now it's the single most important thing on the planet right now for each and every one of us to consider, and to consider our reference for who we are and how we're living our life. And you could say that has been the lockdown benefit, if there has been one. It's created this introspective space that perhaps we would never have had, with all the pressures that we've also had to deal with. But it's also created perhaps a moment where we really realize the pain that we're in when we don't live the life that we truly are born on this planet to do. And for us to start to do it, we have to be royal. We have to reclaim the fact that we're sovereign, that we're queens, that we're kings of our own life. And that implies that we lead, that we make, we have the power to lead. And this is the other word where we could look at royal, where there is a power of action within the statement of the royal self.
So is that what leading is to you, somehow taking action for what you believe to be true? Or
I would say, when I say it's like, we are incarnated to learn. Yeah, and we have our free will or divine will. You could say the royal self acts through divine will. So you still had to function within the world and make choices and decisions, which every choice or decision is an act, because you're redirecting your energy towards one thing or another. So in this sense is what I mean by act is truth is an interesting thing because um, there's so many different ways which we, especially in this year, last year, to perceive truth through how many different lenses. So I think we can only, I would say probably another way to think about it or feel about it is to vibrate, is to ascend, is to create a vibration in your being as high as possible. And from this place, act. Because, the truth tomorrow could be different because, we're always changing. And, and it's not to say a truth is either right or wrong, because, if we look at even ourselves, years ago, we were probably acting with truth because maybe this was within our sphere of knowing who we were at that time. And now we look back and actually the truth would be different as to how we would act. So I would say the royal aspect is the deepest way to work is to work on our frequency and be unrelenting on that, is to be really looking at ourselves and starting to shift our consciousness. And in this moment, that's the biggest determination. And in that place, we act from there as much possibilities as we can, because when we do, the vibration is going to be the most powerful, the most beautiful, most authentic.
That's so beautiful. Yes. Agreed. Yeah. That reminds me a little bit of the work that we do in temple, I suppose, is around this idea of the unification of the soul. And the way I interpret that is the masculine and feminine coming together and the getting through the polarities, sometimes that we hold in our system as, just pockets of energy that need to be released, and just allowing the soul fire to unify, essentially. I just always receive it as a unifying force. And I just wonder, what do those words sound like to you? The unification of the soul, when you hear that, does that conjure anything for you? Does it have a different meaning for you?
It's the unification of the soul. In a way that I would feel that would indicate is to acknowledge the fragments of our life, and I think what I like about what your offering shares is that there is a real and there's a beauty in seeking unification with our deepest polarity. Yeah. So another way that I would understand your work and the power of it would be that you could say our biggest pain is our separation from our opposing polarity, and that by working directly through that axis of focus is that we dissolve all the other fragments that have represented themselves to us in our life in all the different myriads of shapes and forms that we could conjure up as a human on this planet. All of the wrong turnings, if there is a wrong turning, but all of the different things and things that come up into our life as challenge. I love what you're sharing about this sense of unification, because it has this quality of meeting the other. And we could even take that back to the spine. If we're saying that it's just those two serpents that just need to come together, then we have that moment of unity, and in that clarity, like a crystal, like a diamond, everything else that of separation will dissolve.
Wow. Yes. That's it.
Sounds great what you're doing.
That's
So
it. I couldn't have explained it better myself. But that is a really beautiful reflection. Exactly, that we're really not shying away from our polarity, from our shadow, and we're acknowledging that wound of separation, which perhaps comes in even at birth when we leave the womb, and we live with that our whole lives.
And this is the beauty that that why there's so many different people like yourself, me, and many others who are doing the work with just different ways in. And we need these different ways in because, there's so many different ways that we've broken the lock, It's like, how many ways is there to break a lock? There are many. And sometimes the key for one person isn't going to necessarily be the complete key, or you need to see a few people to unlock it in different ways and forms. I think this is the beauty of the work that we do. It's very interesting. It's very beautifully rewarding. And it's very exciting times to be doing this type of work because it's revealing our potential in an ascending energy arc. So in a way, I guess we really don't know what tomorrow will bring when we heal ourselves, because we haven't experienced the frequency that is amplifying at the moment. If we were in the descending arc of energy, it'd almost be, what the highest civilizations were doing. They were writing things down so that we wouldn't forget. Mm-hmm. Hence why scripture isn't something that was a civilized person suddenly figured out. It's mostly that they were so high level, but they realized that we were losing our capacity of clairsentience or clairvoyance and telepathy and higher level function. How can we let the generation to follow to understand what we do, and how will they help them to awaken? So they put it into the stone tablets, they put it into the walls, they put it into writing.
Scrolls,
yes, all of this.
Yeah. And then who knows what this world will look like? Imagine if we were able to step forward in this unity consciousness, and what relating would look like.
Who knows? I'm making no predictions because, it's really, it's because we know it's very difficult because we are in the density of the challenge. So it's, our humanness we're going to be pulled into it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Because we are still eating and breathing and having to pay mortgages and having to do things, and so this life is still very present. But the hope that I have is that inner world will become so much clearer, and we start to understand that this outer function isn't such a huge deal as we think it is, because the energy that is coming from creation is bringing a lot of joy. So it just becomes like a joy to act in whatever way we need to act to fulfill our life.
Yes, beautiful. And bringing awareness to everything, to all the steps.
Completely, yes, absolutely. To shine that light of awareness on the things that we perhaps took for granted or always ever saw one way. And I think this is the beauty of the potential, because all it takes is one person tomorrow who perhaps may have significant potential to impact the world to realize something. And that's always been my hope, rather than kind of, who knows, there might be a divine light being that will land tomorrow and sort it all out. I'd love that to happen. It would be quite incredible news. But I guess the more realistic one would be that our leaders of our world start to have moments of such profound awakening, or that they somehow bring through something that will help to shift the planet in ways that may accelerate. So this is the more practical. Mine was very practical orientated. So
that's good. You're bringing the masculine there.
yes.
Which is wonderful. Yeah. Which is also why I'm so, excited to introduce your work to my students and to let them get to know you and all the wonderful things that you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, and we were so looking forward for you to coming to Glastonbury in 2020 to potentially offer your work here, and that didn't quite happen. But let's see what 2021 brings.
It would be wonderful. It would be wonderful. We can meet in Glastonbury. We can set hold the vision to meet in Glastonbury and perhaps bring all these beautiful ideas and attunements together and see, see what the next step is, because it's always evolving.
Completely. Yeah. I mean, the summer this year, who knows what it's going to look like. It's going to be quite incredible. There's, in many ways, the challenges aside, it's quite an incredible time to be on the planet.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Is there one last thing that you would like to share, or anything that comes to mind, or something that's been that perhaps your students have been working on recently, you've noticed?
Well, I guess the first thing to say is thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here and to talk with you, and for me to be sharing with your following, with your friends and colleagues. It's a little bit challenging here because I know we're in different time zones. I tend to tune in a lot with the energy of the season, and we're coming through here in the UK in February. And so there's a burgeoning energy of Imok, which is the start of Feb, which is the Brigid energy, where the goddess energy starts to work through the land, and the buds start to come out, and the days are getting longer, the mornings are brighter. So if you it's a bit warm all the time there. So I'm working a lot through the physical body. The last thing to say is that our body is our temple, and we have all of these great places to be, but it's the thing that goes around everywhere with you, and to take care of it and to prepare it at this time of year. There may be an equivalent time of year where you're at, Carlotta, to take more care of the physical body, to prepare it for the energy that's it's going to need for the unfolding of the year. So I would say, prepare yourself, get your body ready, get your mind ready, and then just move with lightness, be really joyful, wondrous, excited by the potential that could show itself.
The return of spring. Yes.
You remember those times?
What?
I
remember those times. I'm missing my seasons here. I mean, I feel very lucky to be in the California sun. And I certainly, after a few years, miss my seasons. Yes. But I'll be back. Back. I'll have to time it so that I have a proper winter.
Yes, you can wrap up.
Yeah, exactly. We'll handle that. Okay, well, I am so honored, and this has been so wonderful and so enlightening for me, and I'm sure for those who will come across this talk. And so I'm just very grateful. Yes, and I will put all of your details here below the video, and so that people will be able to check out your courses and your trainings. Now, the great thing about it being online is that we can access it from here too. Yeah, so
fantastic. Thank you. Lovely to speak with you, Carlotta.
You too.
God bless.
God bless. Lots of love.